Yeah, so I feel like we thought, we're like, okay, cool, like 1 to 5%, and then we got 0, and so we're like, what the hell? And I think in retrospect, what we're looking at is like, well, what's the context and where these numbers are coming from? Businesses like women and brands that have been around for 5+ years. This is starting year 2 for my business. And so I think, context matters. So if you're out there and you're just starting a business and you're hearing numbers, but you're not hitting them, don't feel bad, because again, like, context is everything. Like, welcome back to Health Hustlers Happy Hour with Jackie and Jaclyn.
Hello.
This is episode 2. We are super excited to be here today. We are talking about our first launch. So if you didn't listen to our first episode, that was our pilot. We got into like why we're here, why we started this podcast, who we are, how we met. And now we're going to take you on a journey through our first live launch together, because our goal with this podcast, our mission is to be able to share essentially like our journey as being, we're full-time employees, but also part-time health entrepreneurs. And so we want to just document our journey of trying to create these, side hustles and be successful and launch products and services and all the things, side business, side hustle wise. So today we are talking about our live launch of my program called Health Habits Accelerator. It's really our program, because Jaclyn, I'm going to let her talk about it, because she was the reason that we decided to do this. So why don't we start there? Let's go, like, how did this come about?
Yes. Well, I'm not going to take credit for any of it because it's totally it was your idea. It's all you. You're the brains behind it. I just, in my opinion, so if you haven't listened to the episode, our first episode, I was one of Jackie's clients, and I pretty early on, like month 1 or 2, started to realize how important the work that she was doing was to my health lifestyle. And she really opened my eyes to, she was approaching it in a different way. I had learned all the macro counting. I had learned all the health stuff. What she was doing for me was helping me work through why I wasn't showing up for myself the way I knew I should be, which was like a lot of like psychology-based stuff and habit forming. And she was just teaching me a bunch of stuff that as someone who loves psychology, I'd never heard before. And as a avid consumer of online courses, I could see where what she was teaching would really fit into like the online course structure, if we could just tweak it a little bit. So I kind of brought that up to her, and I'm like, listen, what you're teaching is something that like you can absolutely get to more women if we can just kind of structure it in this like online course package. And so, what was it? After Black Friday?
It was after Black Friday, yeah, because we just finished, because Jaclyn was working on her portfolio, her copywriting portfolio. So she's like, hey, I could write some Black Friday emails for you. And you were marketing so I have 3-4 week courses that I created. And the woman that I had hired as the business coach at the time was kind of like pushing me away from the psychology stuff and more on like very, essentially it's like one specific habit. Each course covers one specific habit, but doesn't go really deep into the mindset stuff. It's just essentially giving you some of the tools. And so she kind of steered me away from that. And then when Jaclyn approached me about this, so anyway, our Black Friday sales were kind of like meh. And so that's, I think, one was kind of like, maybe we should take this to the next level, in terms of actually taking like this unique psychology, health habits piece, and putting it out there. So
yeah,
I think that's what happened, right?
Yes. Yeah. And so we were kind of like, well, and you had, Balanced Body Blueprint created.
Yes.
Yes. And so we were like, all right, we have to kind of break that up and create a whole new program. And yeah, that's what she did. And I was like, this is going to be a lot of work for you. And you were totally into it, and you, buckled down and got it done. And yeah, we live launched it when?
Literally, it was like January 6th, 4th, 3rd. Oh
Fourth,
my
I
gosh,
think
January 3rd.
fourth.
Well, see, January 3rd was the webinar.
Yes.
And then we did 1 week open cart, and then it closed the next Thursday or
Yeah.
Wednesday. I think it was Thursday to Thursday. So
Yeah. So
second
that
week of
was,
January.
yeah, that was a quick turnaround. And yep, it
Yeah.
was a lot. It was a lot of work, and we crammed it all in.
Yeah. If there's something you guys need to know about me, it's that I am like you, like if I have a deadline, I will always hit it, even
Oh,
if it's like the scrappiest. Like she's like, we only have a month. I'm like, I can do it. I can do
yes.
it. It's
And you
fine. I'll be
did. And you
here.
did it. You finished early.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Which
And like,
and here
yeah.
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm like writing emails like day of they're supposed to go out, and I'm like, oh my gosh. But yeah,
No, I
I mean,
mean
it was, yeah,
scrappy. It was really
definitely
scrappy.
scrappy. But we did it, and we took action, and that I'm really proud of us for that, because we
Yes.
could have said like, no, let's hold off, until it's perfect. And but
Yes, I was
anyway,
going to talk about that perfection.
yes,
Like that's
yes.
such a barrier, I think, for so many people. I know this one chick that is in the health and fitness space. She's an influencer, and I think, perfection is really what holds her back. And I think she's not alone. Like I think
Yeah.
that, and I see it in clients, it's that all or nothing mindset. And I think you and I just approached it from progress, not perfection. Let's get something out there. Let's learn fast.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like my back, like where I come from at my corporate job. Like that's like the scrappiness, like all my mentors, like it's just like, you just got to put something out there and see what happens so that you can learn and grow and change variables and adjust. So that's what we did. And
That's what
it
we
was
did.
really awesome. It
Yeah.
was awesome. Okay, so maybe we could talk about we can get into some of the details of like what the production process was like, and then Jaclyn, I'll let you talk about the marketing plan and execution, because I think, if if you're someone listening and you're interested in coming up with a course, I highly recommend it, because maybe we should talk a little bit about this first, of like the context of like why create a program in general. And from my experience, and I know you too, Jaclyn's a course junkie. I'm a course junkie. Like we've got that growth mindset. We're constantly learning.
Mm-hmm.
And what we continually hear is that in order to scale a business, you have to scale yourself, especially if you're the face of the brand, right? And so really creating courses is how you scale, is one way to scale yourself. And this, Health Habits Accelerator essentially is going to operate as a group coaching mechanism. So it's a 3-month program. My customers, clients get to go in to a platform called Zenler, where all of the materials in there, there's worksheets, there's videos. And then from there, there's also live sessions with me. So it's kind of like a hybrid model, but it allows for group coaching, and it's one-to-many versus one-to-one. And before Health Habits Accelerator, I was operating on a one-to-one scale, which is totally fine, and it is very rewarding to have one-on-one clients. But as your schedule gets more packed and more busy, you have to figure out, how am I going to scale myself? And so I think, at least in the health coaching space, and probably in other coaching spaces, the two options that seem very apparent to me are either you do group coaching to scale yourself, or you hire other coaches under your brand to do that. And I think for me, like I wanted to try the group coaching first, because knowing, like, I don't know, you guys have to listen to episode 1, but like, I just didn't know if I was going to I didn't know if I wanted to manage other people. I didn't know if I was going to do well at, dealing with other personality types and other opinions. So again, this is like a control thing for me in some capacity, but I think I wanted to just try this first. So anyway, that's kind of the context. And then the production process was really, I have like a I have a Sony camera. I literally actually filmed it in this office. Like if you ever go into my program, you'll see this like white shiplap wall and just filmed it in here. I learned how to, let's see, I think Jaclyn gave me the idea to get a teleprompter So I got an app. I wrote all my scripts out. So I think my other programs with Balanced Body Blueprint, No Sweat Workouts, and Dream Body Blueprint, I did not write any scripts. I just sat in a chair in my kitchen, filmed just like ad hoc, which was fine, but it was a lot less content. I was like a lot less speaking. It was more like, here's a workout, here's some recipes, here's a worksheet. This course has a lot more video content in it. So I decided to just like write out all the scripts in Google Docs. And then this app I found, which I can share in the show notes, has, it's just like you connect it to your Google Drive, upload it. And then I bought this like teleprompting. I'll flash a image on screen here in a sec, but basically it's just like a way to connect my phone and then it'll show it, this like reflection. So I can just like read off, the script and then go through the videos. I did have some like mistakes that I made along the way for sure, where like my forehead was getting cut off because like the camera and my phone were like tipping the tripod over a little bit. And so I had to go back and refilm some things, but still did it in, record time for sure. And I'm trying to think. And then I suppose the video editing process was the most tedious. That was the one where I was really having to dig deep into like my behavioral science, like taking a big goal and breaking it down into small little milestones. I think I would like message Jaclyn each day, like, okay, today I'm editing module 4 and I've got, 8 more to go, and just trying to keep myself motivated, because it just, after you get into a rhythm with, setting up the format of how you're going to edit the videos, you put your intro, your outro, you're adding, text and icons, images, trying to make it more entertaining, that kind of thing. It becomes a little monotonous. So it just took, that part for me was it became incredibly mundane and boring, but just really pushed through it. And having that deadline for us was critical. And I think coming up on Christmas, and like, we knew we were both going to be like at a family houses and all that stuff. So we had a very looming deadline that really did keep us on track. And that is like a little, psychology, behavioral science hack. So always set a deadline for yourself.
Yes.
So yeah, that I think was the production process. I used CapCut, which is TikTok's video editing tool. I love it. I did end up getting I got this iPad in the middle of editing videos, and then I had to like learn like the learning curve of using different apps on an iPad versus a computer was like another layer that I just like added to my plate of chaos. So don't recommend doing that, but that's what I did, and it worked out. But CapCut was a great tool. So I'll have to, let me see if I can, Teleprompter. I'm trying to look at the app name here. I think it's just called Teleprompter. But anyway, I'll put it in the show notes so y'all can see what app I used, because it was great. And that was your idea, right, Jaclyn? Like, I think you said one of the course people that you were taking, one of the courses you were taking, she was recommending using Teleprompter.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. And by the way, your videos were amazing, considering you were like scrappy and threw them together. Like and for, I think your corporate job, how did you say you had experience from like the video, like the graphics and stuff from?
Yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, when I started out as a copywriter, which kind of meant like I was like in my corporate job, writers are kind of, when you're on a design team, designers are like, UX designers are like everything. They're like the most, they get the credit for everything. They get I don't know, they just get more recognition. So as a writer, I was like, well, screw this. Like, I'm doing so much work. And so I ended up taking it upon myself early in my career to learn design skills. Okay. And I had this other designer, I won't say her name just in case she doesn't want me to, but she's amazing. And she literally encouraged me, and obviously like smart on her, because she was delegating work to me at some point, because she was like, oh, she knows how to design. Right. But she was encouraging of me to like, again, that growth mindset, just learn design skills. I will say Canva is like literally the best tool. I'm not like a professional designer by any means, but what I could do is go into something like Figma, which is a design tool that we use at my company, and I can create UX wireframes. So like if I'm creating a sales page, I can wireframe it out so I know like what messaging is going to go where, what's the flow of the page. Or like because my job entails conducting quantitative research, my full-time job, I actually sometimes don't want to rely on engineers or designers to get me prototypes. And so I'll create my own so I can run my own research and have stimuli, visual stimuli for participants to see. So it was kind of just like again, yet another mechanism to have more control of my life and just like have, more autonomy, I suppose, is like
Yeah.
and that's what most people are striving for, is autonomy. So just learning and being scrappy, and again, just really embracing. It's funny because like I used to think I was like a perfectionist, but I'm like, I don't really actually think I am a perfectionist in any way, because everything I do is like, it's like mile wide versus, mile deep kind of thing. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's funny, all these things I've learned along the way. Um, I kind of feel the same way. It's like, I don't know that I'm like, they say like jack of all trades, right?
Yeah.
Master of none. That's kind of
Right.
how
Right.
there'll be something that I like narrow down on and master eventually here.
Yes. Well, copywriting is for sure. I think it's just, I think this is what makes someone want to be an entrepreneur, is when they have that knack for just picking up, little skills along the way. And then it's also what could hinder someone too. And this is why that girl
Mhm.
was, Jung, my friend Jung, was telling me like, you should really figure out how to delegate, or like figure out how to not spread yourself so thin. So I think it's like a good and a bad thing, just
Yeah,
figuring out when to make that cutoff point.
yeah,
But for sure, great for bootstrapping as an entrepreneur.
definitely.
Um, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I want you to talk about the marketing plan and
Yes.
execution of that for
Yes.
HHA.
Well, it's been, and it's still in progress as we've had many, many conversations. I guess, I don't know, where should I start? Um, there was a main focus, um, because the question was, when you're talking to women about losing weight, as health, which I'm not a health professional, I just have been in the health industry with marketing and all of that stuff for a long time. And we know the reasons that women struggle to lose weight, but that doesn't necessarily, in their head, that it doesn't necessarily translate. And so, and not to mention, psychology is not like the most exciting thing to talk about, especially when it comes to losing weight. And women are so used to, the macro counting and the exercise and the, all the tools.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what grabs women's attention when it comes to weight loss. But we were taking it in a totally different direction. And so our challenge was, how do we speak to women and get this point across, that the reason they might struggle to lose weight is because of mindset issues, and has nothing to do with macros, has nothing to do with how, and obviously it
Nothing
does.
tangible, right? Nothing tangible.
Yes, exactly. And so, um, the marketing approach we started to take was, there needs to be a lot of education. We need to take them through a journey of, yes, you want to lose weight, but this is what's going to get you there. And we had to teach them that kind of, um, from the time they came across your social media or your ad to the time they got on the email list. And we kind of did that while launching the program. So, after we sold the Black Friday Body Blueprint, we totally shifted directions, and we started with your email list, who we had on board, which was very engaging. Your email list was engaging.
Yeah.
And we could just kind of started sprinkling in some education and some pre-launch emails that kind of, I think we had like two like newsletter, like educational newsletters before I started like priming your list for your program that was going to be launched 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later.
Yeah.
So we had a lot going on. We had a lot like education, pre-launch priming, and you were doing your social media, and it, in my opinion, I think it was pretty successful.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
agree.
know how you feel, but
Yeah, I mean, looking at
considering,
the
yeah,
data.
considering how many moving parts considering the fact that we created and launched and had interest in a program over the course of 4 weeks, to me was pretty astonishing, to be
Yeah.
honest. I didn't expect it to turn. I didn't expect that we would get the message across the way I wanted to in that short period of time. So,
Yeah. Well, and yeah, like you said, like the data, I mean, the data on the emails, I mean, we're looking at like a 40+% open rate, which is higher than the industry standard, I think, or like at
mhm,
least like it's like in the middle of the range of what people consider industry standard. So that was super positive. And I think that like you said, before that, my emails were not very consistent. I was trying to get on a track of like at least emailing people once a week. And I certainly was sending emails when I was trying to sell my other programs.
mhm,
And then, and just for the context of this conversation too, the email leads that I'm getting for the business are coming from Facebook ads for freebies that I'm running. And so, like Jaclyn said, a lot of these, and I started actually turning up the ad spend for this launch. And
mhm,
so we're getting like a flood of, before Jaclyn started working, like we were way below 1,000 followers or
mhm,
sorry, email subscribers. And as soon as I think the day we launched HHA, we were at like a little over 1,000, and it continues to grow. But I think a lot of those people came in with literally one touch point, like they got a freebie
mhm,
from me,
yeah.
and then immediately we were trying to warm them up and sell to them, which long term, like the business has only been kind of like efficient in getting leads for, probably less than a year now. Like I officially started my LLC last January. So January of 2023.
Mhm,
So, again, just like still greasing the wheels, greasing the runway, like trying to get people warm, and Jaclyn was doing such a good job just trying to like warm people up. And we didn't have much time because we were like, we
mhm,
want to, and January is the time, right, in the health and fitness industry where you want to try to have something, put
yeah,
an offer out there. And
yeah.
so luckily we had heard from like Jill Coleman. She's like, don't feel like you have to launch like Jan 1. So we gave ourselves like a little bit of extra time there to warm people up and then sell, which was nice.
Mhm,
But it, yeah, really came together, and it led in, like your warming up emails led into a webinar that you named, which is a really cool name, Mindset Over Macros. I think it's like
mhm,
we say mind over macros, but mindset over macros. I don't know. So
yeah.
anyway, we got people into a webinar, and then it was my first webinar. So it's just like a lot of firsts. So I did a
Yes.
webinar, and then from the attendees to the webinar, we plus the entire email list. Then we were like carts open for HHA, did 7 days, 7-day open cart, and launched. And then I guess now we have to talk about like what happened after we launched, like
Yeah.
what happened, cart close. So I don't know. Do you want to talk about it, or do you want me to?
No, you can.
Okay. Okay. So all the context leading up to, so like what happened, were we successful? So we actually had no signups for HHA, which I know like people are like, oh well, that's terrible, you guys are awful or whatever, but
Why are we
we
listening to
yeah, why are we
you?
listening to you? But here's the thing, like we're actually like we were not, and this is what I'm really proud of, like neither of us, at least, like I mean, I didn't, obviously I can't be in your head, Jaclyn, but like I don't think either of us were. I think if I was alone and doing this, I probably would have fallen into my like deep dark hole of a pit and been like really like down on myself. But we were both like really, I feel like we were both fine. We were like, this is cool and this is something we can work with, because we still got people to show up to the webinar. We got people to sign up to join the webinar
Mhm,
ahead of time, more people than I've ever gotten to sign up for like a challenge or anything like that. So that was really, really awesome. And I think just looking back, right, is like the email list was not massive, and we had just started acquiring a lot more people who
mhm.
had never had any touch points with you and I ever.
Yeah.
So I think, and this is where some of the courses that Jaclyn takes, like a lot of the marketing courses really help us, like with benchmarking, like what numbers are we expected to hit? And I think we were kind of reading things like, oh, like 1 to 5% of your email list would purchase? Was that some of the data points, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So I feel like we thought, we're like, okay, cool, like 1 to 5%. And then we got 0. And so we're like, what the hell? And I think in retrospect, what we're looking at is like, well, what's the context and where these numbers are coming from? Businesses like women and brands that have been around for 5+ years. This is starting year 2 for my business. And so I think, context matters. So if you're out there and you're just starting a business and you're hearing numbers, but you're not hitting them, don't feel bad, because again, like context is everything. Like, take it as a grain of salt. Like, cool, that'd be nice if 1 to 5% purchased, but just remember, and I think this is the data point that we do care about, which is the touch points. I think it's like, is it like 36 touch points before a purchase happens? Is that
on average? Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe explain what that is, like what that means, and like why
Um,
that's so important to us.
yeah. And essentially, a customer needs to have a connection with a product or a personal brand on average 36 times before they consider purchasing that product, whether it be a digital product or a tangible product. And that number has grown a lot. I can't remember if it's like doubled, but it's becoming longer. And just I think there's a lot of smarter, and the distrust that's been created online in the online space for people. So that takes time, and that can happen on social media. It can happen in the DMs. It can happen in the emails. But considering we had such a short amount of time to do that, it's, and not to mention, we can go over this, in a few minutes, but we're already seeing more momentum out of the email list. So the 36 touch points is kind of a big deal. So.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like the health and fitness space in general is very saturated. And I know one of my business mentors, Jill, talks about like, it's, getting into like, now is the time. Like it's always now is the time, because it's just going to continue to get more saturated. And now it's just really a game of like, I can't remember the exact quote, but like, you only fail if you give up. Like you just have to keep trying. And so I think that's really the mentality that we're taking. And I think this is also kind of giving us that momentum of, so we've done the retrospective. We have a pretty good idea of what we need to do differently for this next launch. And so that's what we're really focused on, rather than like having a pity party, which, it's fine to like feel disappointed. Right. But I think for us, it's like, cool. Like we had 0 expectations, nothing happened, but we still like learned a lot of great skills. We hit a deadline. We now have like Jaclyn's got emails that she's already written that help warm people up, and we can use those. We can templatize those. So it's saving us time. And now we can reinvest that energy into things like, we know, for example, like I was like reflecting, I'm like, I need to really get better at my social media. I think especially during December, I was tapped out because I was doing the filming for HHA. So I just was really not on it. So I think my goal for this entire year is to get very consistent with posting on social media, adding a ton of value to potential customers to increase that know, like, and trust. Because I think that's really the key here. And so we're already seeing, we've set up an automation to get people into that pre-recorded webinar. And at the end of it, we ask them if they want to join the wait list for HHA when we do our next launch. And we already have people on that wait list now, which is super exciting. And so that's like only, it's still January from like the original launch. And now we're already building that wait list for, I think we're going to try to launch in March again. We're going to try every 2 months. And Jaclyn, you can talk a little bit about this too, because this is your idea. This came from a course you were in, but we're going to basically experiment adding a new variable every single launch. So this launch, the wait list is the new variable. And so I'm actually really excited about it, because now we have a realistic understanding of like truly who are the warm leads versus everyone. It almost felt like everyone was a cold it was like a
Mm-hmm.
cold audience going in. Like
Yeah.
I know they were on the email list, but they were also knew that
Yeah.
maybe they were not warm at all. So
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. And to your point earlier, a lot of those, I mean, I think we were at 600 when I started emailing,
Yeah,
and
I
we
think it
had,
was
so
600.
400 of those
Yeah.
people were brand new to the email list,
Yeah.
and we started selling to them right away.
Yeah.
So um, we learned a lot, and um, we were able to test out a lot of the messaging, and we got some feedback. And yeah, I'm really proud that we just launched it, and we're not getting stuck in the emotion, because it was such a success in my
Yeah.
eyes. Like,
Yeah.
we learned so much, and we learned what we're capable of. I learned what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
And like, I just think, every time we launch, and like you mentioned, that every 2 months, that's a strategy of a course that I take. And basically, she says, I mean, your first year of launching should be pure, like, testing and
Mhm.
finding out what's right, and trying it again and finding out what you did wrong. So it's really just a year of education,
Yeah.
So and I know that my focus will be, like you said, yours is social media. My focus is going to be really building that trust in the emails. Um, and like you mentioned, we're going to be working on automating. So my focus is going to be really building that trust as well in, like, an automated funnel. So, and figuring out your brand voice.
Yeah.
And
Really hard. It's so hard.
it is. It's hard with weight loss. It's hard because, like, females have just been so programmed around weight loss and body image, and to change that and to educate people it's I mean, it's already proven to be, a big task, but we're definitely up to it, and it takes time, so
It does. Yeah. Well, and
yeah.
I think this is like part of the messaging too that you're going to be focused on is like, I mean, for both of us with the social media and with email marketing, it's about, like when you throw the word psychology out there, like there's two people, it's like generally two reactions. Some people love it and then
Mm-hmm.
other people hate it or they just get intimidated by it. And so I think our goal is to really make sure that all the content and messaging we're putting out there is really going to help lower that barrier to entry for people, like lower, make them not feel intimidated or like put off by like, what does this mean? And then also like, again, we're like looking at tangible versus intangible. If you think about traditionally, health and fitness coaches are offering like meal plans and workouts and I do those things with my one-on-one clients, but my primary thing is something that's intangible, which is teaching people to unwind emotions
Yeah.
and essentially learn behaviors over like the course of their life. It's and I talk about this too, like honestly, like I think weight loss is 80% unwinding bad behaviors and 20%
Yes.
new behaviors, right? So
Right.
but here's the thing too, and this is what we know is that, and if you're starting a business and you're doing something that you think is unique, and not that it's unique, but look for proof of concept in other places. We know, like I know that Noom is out there, which uses behavioral science for weight loss. So I know that, and they have a market. They've sold their product to people, so I know that people will want that. And my friend Chris Holt is another proof of concept. I was talking to him about his, he coaches, I think primarily women for weight loss. But we were just chatting the other day, and he was like, I think a lot of like he's like I don't have any certifications and what like this mindset stuff, but like that is literally mostly what I'm doing is like I'm talking clients off a cliff. I'm helping them realize that stress is a trigger for their eating, and it's the emotion, their relationship to food, relationship to exercise, whatever that might be. So I know that we know that this is a marketable service. It's something that people value, and it's something I'm super passionate about, obviously. And so I'm like, I'm not going to give up on it just because like one launch didn't, turn out right or whatever. Like there's no
Yeah.
right or wrong. Like it's not even the right word to use. But
Right.
anyway, so um, yeah, I think I think that so we know what we need to do to move forward for our next launch, right?
Yeah, definitely. We're already doing it.
Yes, we're already doing it. So let's see. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we wanted to talk about with the launch, because we kind of covered, before, during, after. And I think what's next for us is we'll keep you posted. We'll definitely do more podcast episodes on what happens over the course of the next several months and probably the rest of the year as we do more
Yeah.
launches. So you can kind of figure out too, like if you're thinking about having a similar structure in your business, how you could
Yeah.
potentially implement that. So
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to sharing the good and the bad and, all the in between.
yeah. Awesome. Well, I think that wraps up episode 2.
Yay.
And we'll definitely be back next week. So stay
All
tuned.
right. Thank you.
Bye.